Harald and Sonja, the monarchs of Norway, today celebrating their 25th wedding anniversary. Hi everybody, I'm Phil Liggett, and that's not the only anniversary being celebrated here in Norway. The Cycling Championships for the first time taking place, and they're celebrating 100 years. But let's go back 1 year now to 1992 to Benidorm in Spain, the last running of the World Professional Road Race Championship, and this was the second straight victory by Gianni Bugno of Italy. He now defends his title here for the second year and is aiming for a third straight title. It's on a course in the downtown area of Oslo, and this the first time these championships have been brought together in the Scandinavian area. 171 starters on the start line, and the weather completely different to yesterday, where the World Amateur Road Race Championship was won by the young German teenager Jan Ullrich. The Italians know they have a lot on their plate. They're defending now for a man who has worn the rainbow jersey for the past 2 years, and again, he's not had a very good season either. Now, can he pull one out the bag and make it 3? The weather is atrocious. It's not only wet, it's also extremely cold, and the riders are thickly wrapped up. There's the man with the weight of the world on his shoulders, Gianni Bugno, and this is not the weather he would have liked at all. They would have much preferred the sun and warmth of the day before, because it really was most pleasant. And Miguel Indurain, like Stephen Roach, like Eddie Merckx, is still on for the Big Three, the Tour de France, the Giro d'Italia and the World Championship. All smiles. He was 6th last year when he was trying for the top 3. Now he's got one more shot, having won both of those great events yet again. Well, the gun goes, and nobody is going to be in any particular hurry here to break away. They're expecting the best part of 6.5 hours in the saddle. And if these conditions do persist, then they are going to be very, very miserable indeed. Takes me back to the start, actually, in Villach in Austria in 1987, where the rain was very heavy and it was very cold. The sun came out in the end, and that was where Stephen Roach won his World Championship and did the Big Three. Roach riding today his last World Championship, and all set to retire at the end of this season. The great Irishman, I'm sure, will attempt to go out of this race with a bang. Warmth, the order of the day. The cold spray of the bicycle wheels now splattering on the faces of the riders in the centre of that pack. It's rather like an acclimatisation period they hadn't hoped for here. It does show, though, the risks that can be involved in running a world title race as we go into September in the Northern Hemisphere, where the weather is on the turn. The snows are only 4 or 5 weeks away here. But you have to say that the Norwegian people have turned on the championships here in style. This is the route the riders face. It's on a circuit of 11.5 miles, making a total distance of 161 miles over 14 laps. There are 2 climbs, the first coming after 1.5 miles, the second one coming at around about 4 miles and finishing at the top at 5.2 miles. It is a course which is not terribly hilly, some 300 metres above sea level. That's all at the highest point. But it is going to be very, very difficult in these conditions. And indeed, the long climb that takes the riders up to the feed, I think, will present us with a war of attrition towards the end. That's how it fits into the beautiful scene here in Scandinavia, and there in kilometres is the overall distance. Total climbing of 3,500 metres today. And now, on these early laps, we look at the riders beginning to stretch, and straight away a crash. Well, we've only just got out of town because we're at the foot of the first climb here, which comes after 1.5 miles, and the riders are already in a little bit of a tangle. There's always this big risk. It's the sort of problems that you would normally expect in the amateur racing, not with the top professional riders. But you can see that a touch of wheels in these very, very greasy conditions are leaving riders in trouble. Looks like Dirk Decker in as well. It's in fact Gert-Jan Teunissen who's down on the right there. And Teunissen up and away. The usual chaos at the back of the race when a rider has a crash like that. This is the start of the first climb. Goes on for about 2 miles. A little bit of a false flat in the middle before he kicks again, taking the riders up to the 3.5 miles point. Well, for the last few days, the top professionals of the world have been arriving here in Oslo. Most of them didn't take part in the track series down in Hamar, which is about 70 miles away. Chidi Claverola in the centre of our picture there, former king of the mountains in the Tour de France, and doing the right thing, holding himself right at the front. Easy to say, not so easy to do, but keeping out of trouble. The riders have already expressed their concern about this course in the wet, because we go down a long steep descent back down towards the city. This is the false flat here as they make the flick, and then they'll start the climb again. Also a very, very difficult corner in these conditions. The crowds are certainly down too, because yesterday they were out in their thousands to watch the amateur race, but it was warm sunshine and it was a most pleasant day. And I wonder if we saw yesterday too in the victory of the 19-year-old Jan Ulrich from Germany, a new Eddy Merckx, because Eddy Merckx was the last man to win at 19 years of age, and we all know what happened to him as the years unfolded. And at last, an attack getting underway very early on. And I think this is Carlos Maya of Venezuela who's put on the first attack, testing the water. An awful long way to go. He's anticipating a world championship, but you've got to start somewhere, and he's got the gap. But the race is lined out, and the counter-attacks are bringing him back. A Dutch rider here. The Dutch riders, like the Italians, like the French, will ride for one man, but they'll wait to see which one of their men can establish the leadership of the team. And then once they've established the leadership of the team, then they'll work to defend him. So there'll be a lot of touching the water here and just testing out what's going on. Danny Nelson is the rider coming up, and not willing to work with the young Venezuelan at all. The whole field closes down. Well, that horrible feeling of cold rain hitting you will have eased a little bit now as they become completely wet. This is round the back of the harbour. Very slippery stretch of road. The pits are actually beneath us there where the riders come through. And yesterday in the World Amateur title, it was chaos down there. There were so many people trying to pass up drinks and bags and feeds. Seems to be a lot better organised today for the World Professional title. The centre of Oslo closed down. I have to say that the authorities here have done a marvellous job on the organisation. They've been working on it for the best part of 3 years. One or two disappointments when they put in bids, but they finally landed the big one, celebrating 100 years of cycling. The big face in the middle there is Adrie van der Poel from Holland. And you can see the riders here all trying to peer around the spray of the wheel behind. There's the first lap completed in 26 minutes, and that's a very good time. As we see now, the small gap is being timed there on the one rider, and in fact there are two of them now. Now this is Maya who's gone away again, but he's been joined by a Japanese rider, Takehiro Yamada. And the two riders are clear. Well, the Japanese have provided us in the past with one or two great track riders, but none yet on the road. But each time we see them race, they're providing us with one or two more riders, one riding on the Motorola team this year. Perhaps the finest cyclist of all time to come out of Japan, Koichi Nakano, the World Championship for a decade in the sprint. It was the sprint, by the way, that started the world titles back in 1893 in Chicago. The first World Road Racing Championship going to the Nürburgring in Germany. That was back in 1927 and won by the great Italian Alfredo Binda. Now, cold legs beginning to warm to the climb. They won't be too concerned by the attack from these two unlikely riders, Yamada and Maya. And this descent here is very, very greasy indeed. No chances taken. The corner itself has been taken off. You can see the new bit of road down there. That was to take off the junction to allow a better swing to the next start of the second part of the climb. And these really are the conditions that the organisers feared most. These roads are not very wide, as you can see. And we've got one rider chasing in between here. We'll see if we can catch a glimpse of him. It's an Austrian rider who's gone through. And he's allowed a little bit of a gap over the field. The Austrians, who have provided for some great amateur riders in recent years, but they don't get a lot of success at professional level. And there's a faller right on the corner, and somebody has touched the wheel, and the pile-up is following. Well, these are the fears confirmed. There's an Italian rider down. And this is the start now of the crashes, I think, because the riders are very, very worried about these descents. If you touch your brakes just a little bit too much, you're down on the ground, and there's a rider hurt there. I'm just having a look down, but one of the riders is quite badly hurt, I think. He's landed on his collarbone. Now let's have a look at that in slow motion here. Look back to the centre of the picture where the trouble starts. A touch of wheels, I think. And the ricochet effect is riders actually touching their brakes. They're not even falling or hitting the riders who have fallen. They're falling off independently because they're braking and they're losing the wheels. And this is another one. This is further along. The camera's picked up another one here. Kai Huntermarkt is one rider who is trying to straighten out his bike, the Motorola Professional, and it's clearly damaged. And I think that under the car there is Philippe Louvio, former champion of France, and he doesn't look at all well. Louvio's certainly out of the race. Well, this is all happening on the third lap, and the breakaway still on, with Takahiro Yamada and Carlos Maya. But quite frankly, the race is preoccupied now by the falls at the back. And that is a sad end for a very, very talented cyclist, Philippe Louvio. He's carried off the course and onto hospital. And there's the time gap, 1 minute 21 seconds. And these two riders swapping turns at the front quite well. Well, you can see by the camera lens just what the conditions are like. It's not just wet, by the way, it is extremely cold. And this is another crash here, and this is indeed another sad sight. Another rider on the floor. And this is Peter Verbeeken from Belgium, who made the selection for the World Championships. He rides for one of the small Belgian teams, and he's done well to get selection, but he's out now. And this is another one of the difficult bends too. I think now one or two of the riders here are going to feel very, very nervous on these corners. What a magnificent sight that is, though, as the riders spiral away back up. And again, I think there are more problems. Look at this now, these riders falling on every corner. They really aren't going to know what to do next now. These are two Colombian riders who've gone down, and thankfully the rest have managed to go round them. Well, this isn't the weather that Mr. Jaramillo would like from Colombia. The Venezuelan rider setting the pace at the front, Maya. And the chase down by the Italians, just keeping the race in touch. They're not too worried about this breakaway. They know it is the carrot that's gone out in front now. They're not too worried about those two riders. They're not going to be the world champions by the end of the day. Much too far to go. But they will watch for a possible counterattack that could contain some strong men. And the gap is tumbling down. Just 20 seconds now on this fourth circuit. A long break. I think it was a gamble that they took and hoped that somebody else would come up, but the bunch are on them now. I think the gap's about 8 or 9 seconds. Well, you can see it for yourself. 5 seconds on the corner, and they've crashed on that zebra crossing. That crossing on the road has proved too slippery. It was the Japanese rider who fell first, and that has put the race right on the tail. The Dutch riders are up alongside them, and they've pulled them back. And now we can see there with our slow motion camera, watching when they hit the white, and down they go. Well, that's the way to end the breakaway. Out in the lead almost since the opening of the championship, and then suddenly back in the race, and you've got no chance. Now we're going to start to see a counter-attack here, I think. The riders start to go away. Well, you'd expect the Dutch riders to do this. They take risks all the time. But the field more or less is back together. It's difficult to appreciate the gradient of the climb from the helicopter there, but it is quite a nasty little climb, especially at the speed that this bunch is going up the climb. They've got a very good fast tempo. And Thierry Claverola, dancing away on the pedals, stays up near the front of the peloton. Stephen Roach, Martinelli, still both in the centre of the pack. Now this probably is the most difficult descent. King Harold, by the way, that's his residence, is coming down to see the finish today, and there he is, celebrating his 25th wedding anniversary with Queen Sonia. And quite a big day for him too. He's going to come down and he's going to give an audience to the world champion, whoever that will be, by the end of the day. And it's good to see the corners are well barriered here, because one or two riders have already tested the ban. Another one's gone, and a German rider is down this time, and that has caused the ricochet once more. An Italian fell as well, and just look at this carnage. You would think somebody sprayed the main field here with machine gun fire. They've fallen all over the road, and they must be getting sick and tired of this. There's a Belgian rider looking a little bit hurt to the left of our picture. The Italians seem okay, and trying to get back into the action. Well, fortunately, the back of the field were able to slow down there. But the tall Belgian rider is not at all feeling good here. He's in a little bit of trouble. Mark Wouters. And he doesn't look as though he's too keen, because unfortunately the draw for his car was a long way down the caravan. It took a while to get some assistance. And again, we can see how it's happened. It's rather like the British Grand National, this. And I reckon you would call this one the Canal Turn, which is one of the famous portions of the Grand National circuit, and it usually claims a few, but not as many as this. And still the pressure being applied at the front as the Italians continue to fall at the back. Well, there's a couple of riders the Italians will try to work for today, but by the end of all these crashes, you're going to have to ask yourself the question, who can they work for? Van der Poel trying to get some action in the line here, realising they may have a split on and the time to start working well. Great bike hander, Adrie van der Poel. Silver medalist on a number of occasions in the World Cyclocross Championship. He can handle his bike well, and these conditions will suit him. And so racing now for just over 2 hours, a 27-minute lap. But they're still averaging, despite these conditions, 25 miles an hour. That's a very, very good ride indeed. Stephen Roche, determined to go to the end today, riding his last World Championship, and memories at the moment no doubt the same as they were at Villac as he rode along in the rain. But by the end of the day, he was the world champion, and he'd completed the hat-trick. Well, it was only about 4 or 5 weeks ago, Stephen was saying to me that he didn't realise quite what he'd achieved back in 1987. I don't suppose when you've done it, you can realise it, but winning the Tour de France like he did, hot on the heels of a brilliant Tour of Italy after the arguments he had with his team captain, Roberto Vicentini. And then, of course, and this is another crash. Well, this is amazing, and this is Jean-Francois Bernard, former third place in the Tour de France for him, and now on the faithful side of Miguel Indurain, and he looks as though he's hurt his foot, and Moreno Argentin is down as well. The man who won the world title in 1986 in Colorado Springs, when it was held in the United States for the first time, and it looks to me as though Argentin has hurt his leg there and could well be out the race, but Bernard is going to go on. Well, it's a long, long time, if ever, there's been a World Championship quite like this, because the riders are falling not just on the bends but on the straight as well, and the problem is the white line down the centre of the road. I think they're also slipping on there. This is how this one happened. I don't know how our camera managed to get in amongst this one, but there's Argentin to the left, and rolling in agony is Jean-Francois Bernard. And I think Argentin is going to retire. Leader of the Giro d'Italia this year, which I hope that you managed to see on our special edition tape of that event, because it was a very interesting race indeed. And the crowd, hats off to them, because they're returning. They're all Italians. They're all the great Italians who support their riders around the world. They've set up their camp. They've flown the Italian flag. And now they're waving to their team. But they'll be disappointed when the news reaches them with the demise there of Moreno Argentin. Well, not surprisingly, the field a little bit happier now to come back into order, led by Gert-Jan Teunissen. Sean Kelly going through our camera lens there. Stephen Roche grimacing a little bit but enjoying it. Martin Early in the other green jersey. There's Eric Breukink. Nobody now very anxious at all. I would imagine they're extremely nervous. I'm wondering where the next fall is going to come. There's a brave man riding no hand in the centre. One of the Norwegian riders. So we're in the heart of lap number 6 now. Pedro Delgado, winner of the Tour de France in 1988, and now been pushed into second place on the Banesto team by the fine riding these last 3 years of Miguel Indurain, Charlie Motte. And talking there to Bernard Hinault, the manager of the French team. 5 times winner of the Tour de France, of course, and I'm probably quite pleased he's got the heater on in that car today. And Motte, the big comeback, had a very solid Tour de France when you consider that really his season was ruined with an early season crash this year that broke his leg. Hinault, a perfectionist indeed, as serious in his management of a team as he most certainly was when he was a great cyclist. No sign at all of this weather easing. You look out across the ocean here and all you see are dull, dank, grey skies. Riders coming around the back of the castle. Oh, and well, that was a crazy fall. That was a crazy fall. That was right on the line of the centre of the road, and it looked like it was a Belgian rider who fell, who was setting the tempo, and the riders just looked to see who it was and went straight round him. It's Atle Pedersen who's setting the pace. Now let's have a look who it was, because it looks as though he's hurt. And again, confusion in the ranks, but this is the champion of Belgium here, Alain van den Bosch, and it looks to me as though his elbow or his collarbone is most certainly broken. Well, I think, you know, there have been grounds here to possibly call off this championship, but how can you do that when the preparation has gone into it? But let's have a look again. What's the centre of the picture now? As Van der Bosch comes across the yellow strip in the middle and his wheels simply go away from him. And how on earth there wasn't a major crash there with all of the riders right behind him, I don't know. But the peloton has seen it. They've fanned out around him. Pedersen going off to our left. And there you can see from the air just how he took out a Dutch rider as well. And one of the Spanish riders gone down with him. This is Atle Pedersen, who was absolutely delighted that after a career, he was a very good amateur rider, is now able to ride the World Pro title on his own ground, although I think he would have wished for better weather conditions. This is Alain van den Bosch again, and they're doing a pretty rough job here of strapping him up, ready for the trip to hospital, just to hold the bones together, because they obviously suspect either a broken collarbone or elbow. So we're moving out towards lap number 8. And an attack now by Stephen Roche. Roche is going to say goodbye, certainly with honours, that's for sure. He wants to make sure that the television cameras remember the man who in 1987 won the world title. And look at this, a fine piece of acceleration by Roche. One of the Norwegians has grit his teeth and got onto his wheel there. But Roche has certainly strung out those riders. But he's going nowhere. I think it's more a show of bravado by Stephen here. Just a chance to show people he's still here. He had a terrific Tour of Italy and a terrific Tour de France for his final year. This is Atle Pedersen attacking. Roche looks over his shoulder. The legs are hurting a bit now. One or two surprising faces now at the front of that peloton. And this is the feeding station, but nobody in any hurry to grab any food. Just over the top then. Riders then making their right turn, and Atle has gone clear. Well, once they see these rather attractive colours of the Norwegians, we don't get to see professionals riding their national team colours too often. And these certainly are new colours for Norway. Now, let's see what he's done, see if he can bring somebody up here. Might start to produce a counter-attack, perhaps. Oh dear me, no. The whole field is up. Quickly regrouped, but of the 171 starters now, I would say that bunch is looking to me to be probably around about 80 men left in this race. Some brave Norwegians. Well, the weather that they will come to expect for the next few months, indeed. This is the model of a Viking ship, which normally takes people out around the bay. It's now finished its summer toy season. It comes to rest in the harbour. Well, despite the weather, there still seems plenty of riders willing to turn on the style. Professional riders, they go out in all sorts of weather. They really never complain a lot. There's Adrie van der Poel. He's been dirtier than this, though, when he's been racing to a world silver medal in cyclocross these last few years. And I remember him making a spectacular crash at the World Cyclocross Championships earlier this year, when he failed to jump a ditch on his bike. His front wheel went down it and he catapulted off it and went straight through the pits without a bicycle. Andy Hampston, the earpiece there, his contact to the team manager out of his ear. Probably had enough of what Jim Okovic might have wanted to say today in these conditions. Zenon Jaskula, what a marvellous July he had, finishing third in the Tour de France. Highest ever finish for Poland. And the Poles are tough riders too. These conditions might suit him today. There's still a lot of blue jerseys down there too for Italy. Gianni Bugno's still there. Claudio Chiappucci. And talking to Bugno, we've seen nothing of him yet at all. And there's somebody else who's down. Somebody's down. The bike is in the centre of the road. This is also a hazard. The rider himself is trying to get his bike back and has hurt his left leg too. I can't spot them from the helicopter who they are, but it looks to me as though we've got a Spanish rider in trouble and an American rider calling for service. Well, this really is too bad. This is the worst corner of the course. There's so many riders been falling here. But the field go on. Led by the Dutch riders. Van der Poel never far away from the front. And the tête de la course, the head of the race, the riders are all together. The Italians may be getting this race back into their little wing here, because it's the sort of race that is going to, I think, give us a surprise. The crowd are coming out to see the passage of the race come through, and then they're all darting into doorways and coffee shops to await its next trip round, because these laps 11.5 miles around. And it's being covered throughout its entirety on television here as well. And so the riders, quite understandably, are going to keep this race together as long as possible. The climb out comes very soon after the start. 1.5 miles down the road, they start to climb again. Bjorn Riis looking for a little bit of help here from the Danish team, and certainly the Scandinavians are anxious to impress. And Bjorn Riis, now part of the new setup in Denmark, because now the Danish riders are earning what they can see as big money with the success on Danish television of this sport. More than 70 hours of the Tour de France was given on Danish television this year, and Riis responded with a fine ride. Constant attacks coming all their way, trying to get something together. Tall, thin legs here of Frankie Andreu, keeping the stars and stripes up front as well. What a solid rider he is. Almost rewarded with a stage win in this year's Tour de France. Very, very good rider, fast finisher. Could be his day today in these conditions too. Now you can see the attack here by Frankie, and the counter-attacks coming from behind, just trying to hang on to his wheel rather than counter the move as they put the pressure on. Bjorn Riis going through there, seems to have been caught in the middle of having his lunch when the attack came, but Andreu has been caught by the field, and once again all together. We're now now reaching the stage of the race where the tired legs, the cold legs, are going to take their effect here. And the pressure's now being applied by the big names, and that's what they'll be from now on, as they try to sense now just who is left with any strength in this race and the nerve to want to continue. Dagotto Lauritsen nearest the camera, unhappy when he lost his place with Motorola, and what a great season he's had with TVM. Stage win in the Kellogg's Tour of Britain, amongst his other big victories this year. And I'm sure has trained especially for this world title on home ground. Still remembers with sadness the crash he had with Dirk de Wolf when we were in 1990 in Japan. Fabio Roscioli won the stage of the Tour de France, and he said if he did, he'd take all his neighbours out to dinner, which he did, but it cost him a lot of money. There were 25 of them. It was in his long breakaway this year down on the south of France. Now this is an interesting little break that's starting to get itself together here, and Dagotto feels now is the time to start moving up towards the front. Heading up towards lap number 9 now, and this little breakaway is the first serious move of the bigger names in the race. There's no longer the shadow boxing now. They've realised that at any moment somebody could go down and ruin the championship. And now they're trying to seek out a select group. Delgado coming up. Just latches on to the end and moves very, very rapidly up towards the leaders. Face now of Dagotto Lauritsen tries to get something working very, very hard here. This is the sort of breakaway. And look at this, Dagotto Lauritsen wants a little bit more help, and he's not really receiving it here. I think the Spanish rider that came up there too should have really started to work with him. It was Gorospe of Spain. Gorospe, I think, will be more interested to see the arrival of Big Miguel Indurain, because he's the rider, I think, who is the man that they still hope can pull off the big triple and join the legendary Eddie Merckx and indeed Stephen Roach. Well, that's an interesting breakaway. Yaskula's got up there as well, I think. The whistle blows to warn the riders. Oh dear me, and they've gone down again. Another series of... And there's Dekker on the floor again, as now the Belgians once more in the pile-up, and this time with the Danes. And look at that. Dekker on the right of our picture, and I think that is his third crash today. Well, one thing, he's learned to be a really hard professional bike rider, because it looks it's just a matter of straightening his bike, and he's going to be back on the road yet again. You can see here now, and it's the rider there who goes down, the German rider. Dekker falls in sympathy there, and then the others on the left of our picture simply run out of road and can't get round. And this in over the barrier is Raul Alcala. Alcala has gone over the barrier here. Well, I can tell you he's been very, very lucky indeed, because there was a tram went down these tracks not a couple of minutes previously. I don't think anybody anticipated riders falling over the safety fences onto that track. But if you're involved in a pile-up and there's nowhere to go, I guess you go over the fence. And Alcala, very, very fortunate indeed. Winner of the Tour du Pont this year, just ahead of Lance Armstrong. And looking a bit shaken. I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised. And Alcala, I think, will call it a day here as he comes back over the fence. Well, the medical team on the World Championships will never forget this one in Norway. And the brilliant Mexican rider who won the big race for Word Perfect this year, the Tour du Pont, at a team that hasn't enjoyed a great season, first year in the sport. But that's what cycle racing is. Sometimes they don't all come good. Well, we'll get back up to the race here, and again, you can see now the rain has turned once more into a deluge. Maurizio Fondriest going through. What a marvellous season he's had. Almost certain to pick up the World Cup for the second time by the end of this year. And Fondriest still in the decisive moves. Now the action forming again, thick and fast. Behind Zimbabwe of the Swiss team through on the inside there. I think that's little Charlie Motte leading them through as well from France. He's still very much in the thick of it. But still looking for a chink in the armour. A sign that there are riders here stronger than the others. Thierry Claverola moving up on the outside. A lot of Italian riders still bringing their men to the fore. The Italians taking confidence over these last couple of years by the brilliant riding of Gianni Bugno. Certainly the spectators and the press are always very hard on the Italian riders. If they don't perform, they really do take a hammering, both in the newspapers and by the spectators. They want results all of the time. And they've had a few good ones over these last few years too. But not from this young man. Well, even if the riders have been in the saddle now for the best part of 4 hours, I'm afraid he won't have any chance of keeping up with these. Claudio Chiappucci moving to the fore now. Roscioli still here, inspired by his stage win in the Tour de France. This is the sort of breakaway now that we want to see start to think of consolidating itself. You can hear the shouts for Italia coming all the time from the left of the road. The spectators seem to outnumber everybody else on this course. It's not been a great day for spectators, that's for sure. And it looks as though we've got a nice little group here trying to work its way clear, and a powerful group it is too. Slight split in the field at least. But they're over the top. Once over the top of this climb yet again, it should come back together. There's Frankie Andreu still there, very much in the thick of it. And it's Imbuden setting the pace. And surprisingly, there's still a big bunch of riders here. They start the Grise descent once more. I think now the spectators are coming to these corners more to watch the fun and games and to watch who's leading the World Championship. And the flag being held to our right, I think that's the colours of Latvia. As the riders come through, and still a lot of riders now. This race is beginning to split, that's for sure, because as soon as they come down this climb, they will start the next ascent. And it could well be now that the pressure at the front is beginning to crack a lot of men. And there's somebody, and I think it's an attack by Norway. It is indeed a Norwegian rider who's starting to go clear here. It's Bo-Andre Namvent who's gone. Rides on an American team, Subaru Montgomery. No immediate reaction. Andreu on the outside nearest camera. Chiappucci climbing in second place, just watching who's gone up the road. The Norwegian may sense that the time is becoming nice and ripe. And Namvent has gone clear. An interesting move this, because the Norwegians really have arisen to the occasion. They've had, this is the third different Norwegian rider we've had attack. And it looks as though they're taking it with a lot more serious intent now. The Italians deciding they must start to bring him back. So Bo-Andre going clear over the top at Ekberg again. Little look over his shoulder, might be a useful little group. If they can get across as a group and not as a bunch, they've got something to work on. Vastly underrated rider, Namvent. Third this year in the United States. A lot of riders now looking for others to make the chase. There's Dagotto going through. Seem to acknowledge there's somebody on the left of the picture. They may have told him that Namvent has launched the attack, because for the moment at least they're on the same team today. And the counter-attack coming. And there's a couple of Onse riders. It's Hodge on the nearest to the camera there, the Australian rider, but these are two teammates together. And they're going to try and start working together now if they can. Well, Stephen Hodge survived a long day. He hasn't had the great season he had last year. He's trying desperately now to stay in the picture. But that's wiped out as well. Field all back together. The Italians feeling now they might be bringing this race a little bit back together again. Charlie Motte trying to move into the action at the front. But look how gingerly they're now taking these right-hand bends. They're well aware now just how dangerous this course is. They've never been allowed to rest because they've been using so much nervous tension up, knowing that every corner they've gone round, they've had to watch carefully for the riders falling. The Italians have got themselves organised. Little intrusion from the French too, as they try to come through on the near side. But this bunch is refusing to go and crack under this pressure. They're scrabbling back. It's probably down to about 65, 70 riders now. The other Frenchman I've seen being very active up and near the front is Bruno Cornier. And that gives you some idea now of just how bad this weather conditions really are. Heading up towards the feed again. And that's the view from our second motorbike mounted cameraman. Oops, a day to, and you know, almost again, the German rider snatching the bag there almost went down. They really have had some near misses today too, and the Germans have been on the floor along with the Dutch, and this is a Dutchman too being pushed back into the race. And it looked as though it could have been Frans Massen being shoved off too. Nearly 5 hours completed now. And the riders completing their lap number 11. And just look at these conditions. And these riders down the line are really more interested just hanging onto the wheel in front than to think of attacking just at the moment. A long descent, every rider craning his neck to see round the corner. There's still no decisive move, and I would think that we have to say that the rain has stopped any initial long attacks here. We haven't really seen any breakaway at all get off the front of this race since the early attack of those two riders from Japan and Venezuela. One or two riders have tried, but without a great deal of success. They've made 100 metres, perhaps 200 metres, but no real time gaps at all. Chiappucci looking to see if anybody's willing to launch an attack. Just checking, in fact, to see if the acceleration on the climb has opened a gap. There is certainly a little gap here. And Chiappucci anxious to see now what he can attack and what he can draw out of this. And I can't blame him for that. Claudio Chiappucci, the sort of rider who, you know, will try anything at any time, as always worries the rest of the field because they never know when Claudio is going to launch an attack. It's Bjarne Riis who's gone with him and gone by him. Well, every time a Scandinavian rider hits the front, they get the cheers they deserve. And Chiappucci's committed, getting back onto the wheel of Riis. What a magnificent rider Kipuchi is. He always keeps trying his luck, and occasionally it works out for him. And now the gap in the front. Rees has proved magnificent again today, adding to his brilliant Tour de France, along with the stage victories there as well of Jesper Skibby, who has had a bad crash today, by the way. We haven't seen him on camera, but he's been rushed away to hospital. That really is very, very sad for Jesper Skibby, who just recovered from a serious crash in Tirreno Adriatico, and had that marvellous highlight in the Tour de France at Évreux this year when he won the stage. And now, news reaching us, he's out again with another maybe serious injury. There's an awful lot of pressure being applied at the front now, particularly from the Norwegian riders, and that's good to see. Pedro Delgado, Perico, as they call him, and still a very, very game cyclist. He's taken the brunt of the force of criticism well since Indurain became the top man on the team. He's always aligned himself to Indurain. Remembers the time when Indurain actually helped him ride so well in the Tours de France, and now the favour being returned. This is Long Dufour.
Okay, so just a quick update as to what I'm going to do. Done a very short false flat at the moment, and in a few minutes I will be hitting maybe the steepest part of this climb. Shortly after that we have our first checkpoint, then we have a very short descent, a bit of a flat, and then we have a strava segment, which if you look at my character now, then I'm literally hovering right beneath the strava segments in my avatar. It's that orange line underneath. Okay, so far it's an easy zone 2, maybe even zone 3. Right, trying to keep my heart rate down quite low today. This is not a race. It's still at 8k so far, just over 10k to go. 611 meters climbed so far, so 777 left, which you can see at the bottom of the screen. Okay, I'm going to just change my viewpoint as well, just to make it a bit more interesting for the viewers. So let's have a look at some stats first of all. Okay, so not going to go any more than 18% gradient for the rest of the climb. Okay. Well, you can understand that yourself. You don't need me to tell you what that is. Okay, let's go back. Get rid of that. Let's take a quick look at the map. Okay. So, as we said, this is not a race. No doubt I'll race on this course sometime in the future, but not today. So at the moment, the time is 11:30 p.m. So I'm going to finish tonight after midnight. So I may do a second climb right after this, which means that I can then rest for tomorrow and for most of the day after as well. I'm going to do my next ride on Thursday evening, because it's Tuesday now, and it'll be Wednesday when I start my next ride, or when this ride finishes. So I'll just shut up for a bit. Okay, let's go back to the video screen. Okay, let's go to here, and let me just change my viewpoint to middle again. And I think what I will do as well is I will get in touch with Rouvy support, and I will say it's possible to be able to change the viewpoint from the Rouvy companion app, rather than me having to get off the bike, go to the computer, then change it all manually like this. So the companion app to change the viewpoint, especially in races as well. If I'm got my figure quite close, and I can see somebody ready to launch an attack on the side panel on the left, but I can change to a faraway viewpoint. I can see them catching up to me a bit more easily. Okay. Give myself some kudos. Nobody else will. Okay, I'm going to turn myself off now. Yeah, that's what she says. But yeah, if I'm going to turn my volume off, I'll put the audio back on. Okay, the audio itself is from the 19, I think it's the 1993, yeah, 1993 UCI World Championships. So you're nice to notice there's a lot of crashes, and it's in Norway, a lot of crashes. Matthew Van der Poel's dad is in there, Lance Armstrong, Miguel Durain. But you can hear what's going on yourself anyway, so I'll lower myself down now.
Of Belgium, the Belgian champion, as we saw earlier. And it looks as though the serious chase is being left to the Italians. Well, that's the pressure of being the defending country, in effect, with Gianni Bugno, the world champion these past 2 years. Through the feeding station, and the cheers are there for Scandinavia. Deservedly so. Reese 5th in the Tour de France this year. Superlative performance for the first few days. We all thought that he would crack, but he didn't. He survived the passage of the Alps and the Pyrenees so well. And now, will he survive what is going to be a long, lonely ride to the finish of these World Championships? 23 miles to race. And Bjorn Riis has taken the offensive. And what a finish it would be if he survived for 2 laps. Surely he can't do that. Almost 5.5 hours in the saddle. The car headlights now lighting the way in what are very dismal circumstances here in Oslo. And the crowd, I have to hand it to them, has grown considerably here, with the greatest names in the world racing for the first time in Norway. And the cheers, well, you can hear them for yourself now as Bjorn Riis goes through with 2 laps to go. A Danish rider out in front. And a very quick lap indeed, yet again. Almost 26 miles an hour. Well, the field are chasing, but I wouldn't call it a determined chase right now. It's just over 20 seconds, the gap. There's nobody, it seems, willing to help the Italians in the chase down. They've got a split in that big field as well right now, but this bunch is small now. The lap-by-lap communication sheets which we see are now listing an awful lot of riders having abandoned the race. They're slipping out at the back of the course. But the one that we should note, Gianni Bugno has called it a day, so there'll be no third title for him and no fairy tale either. The weather has never been on his side. Now, but can he be on the side of this man, Bjorn Riis? He's searching for the gear that might help him up the hill that's just about to come. But you know, he's still worried about the proximity of the chase, and even at this stage he might be happier if 1 or 2 riders did join him. But the chase down is coming mainly from the field, and it's the Italians who are doing it. And there they are. At the front of the race there is Bruno Kinghialta, and the man doing the work with him is Faial. And those are the 2 riders trying now to keep this race together. And I can only think they're doing it for the 2 leaders who are left, and that's Maurizio Fondriest and Claudio Chiappucci. They're probably the only 2 men who could finish the job off now for Italy. And they're both in that group. The group, well, looking at it, is about 35, 40 riders still left with a shot at this World Championship. And certainly these 2 are prepared to sacrifice everything for it. This is Faial. And a fine piece of placemaking he's doing here to bring back Bjorn Riis. Holding him at the moment. Riis going out onto the climb yet again. One more time around this course after this. And there isn't a man in this race won't be sorry when this World Championship rolls to an end. It's been a tough one. Perhaps there's no more than 35 riders in that chase group now, trying to sort themselves out for the big chase down. One or 2 riders still along for the ride too. They try to keep an eye on it. But the Italians talking to each other, anxious to get this chase over. They want Bjorn Riis back in the pack. He's setting a tremendous pace out here. Something like 26 miles an hour. No real organised chase because nobody wants to assist the Italians. The Italians always ride like this in a World Championship. They ride very well as a team. because they share the spoils equally should they get the world champion on the squad by the end of the day, and they're also on a big payout from the Italian Cycling Federation, which is a little bit different to most teams. Now this is where the hill begins to bite again. Three Italians in the first 6 riders, and you've got 4 Italians in the top 10, but there's still a couple there protected, and they'll be Fondriest and Chiappucci. The wet and tired legs of Bjorn Ries. He keeps looking over his shoulder, and that is not a good sign, actually. You keep on looking backwards, you're not concentrating on setting the pace that will keep you away from the field. And I think they're beginning to chase him down. He still looks quite cool and collected, despite the effort he's been making. In fact, some of the Italian pacemakers now begin to feel the pace too. They're dropping back a little bit. There's Chiappucci nearest the cameras who went past us there. But there they are, we can see it for ourselves now. There's a very nice little group coming up here. They've cracked the head of the bunch on the climb. And now we'll see what the Italians have to offer, because they've chased very hard indeed to bring this breakaway back, and the obvious move is to now launch an attack. I wonder if they can. They're literally diving for wheels as they go around that top bend, because there is a group of about 8 or 9 men, I think, trying to get clear. The Italians are closing in. Fondriest is the rider setting the pace, and there we are, that's what it was all done for. Fondriest responding now to the hard work of Kengialta and Farazan, as he now tries to wipe up this World Championship. He'd love to wipe away the memories of that rather lucky win, as they refer to it, back in the late 80s, when Steve Bauer and Claude Coquillon had that head-on clash. Well, it was Fondriest who nipped round the fighting riders to finish up the world title holder. There he is on the left of our picture. Gerard Rouet just behind him in second place. Looks as though he spent the last 6 hours down a coal mine, frankly. And Gertie Antonis are trying to get across the gap as well. Still a lot of riders prepared to grit their teeth here and try and close the gap for one final time. The selection is not far away. David Cassani down the back end looking to see who is behind. Okay, Pucci's the little rider in blue at the back here, and looking to be following a wheel through with an intent to attack. And Olaf Ludwig, this rider, Olympic champion in Seoul in 1988, former East German, of course, turned very late in his career. And Franz Massen is having a dig as well. I think Chiappucci's flown away. I think Chiappucci is gone, and Claude Coquillon is trying to have a go. And the rider is coming up just behind him there, I think, is Gerard Rouet. Well, Franz Massen trying to finish off, perhaps for a good result for Word Perfect today. And that would wipe away the memories of a rather poor Tour de France for them. The big battle continued in the Tour between Alcala and Armstrong in the early part anyway, if you remember. It was Armstrong who lost the Tour du Pont in the United States to Raoul Alcala, but it was Lance Armstrong who won the stage in the Tour de France at the expense of Raoul Alcala. Those who have the legs now will be the only men who will take part in this title at the front. There's Franz Massen, a nice guy and a real nice bike rider. And Rouet it is who's up here with him. And Claudio Chiappucci is the man who's forced the attack. So the counter-attack has come. They wipe away Barney Rees and they take on the offensive as well. And that was the tactics of the Italians throughout in the chase. Fondriest tried to do it, but was clearly closely marked. They often do misjudge the strength of Claudio Chiappucci. And he tends to find himself operating in a lot of space. And that's big Miguel Indurain who's coming in. This is the big showdown. Indurain now has decided it's time to go. We haven't seen much of him all race in his Spanish jersey there, but Indurain has gone across, and the chase is on now as the riders try to scrabble across the junction. The World Championship at last is beginning to come to the boil. And there's Lance Armstrong trying to come across here, the American rider. Now, we haven't seen Lance all day, but he knows he's going to make a move now. That's a marvellous attack by Lance. And Dagotto, who has been in the attack these last few laps, driven on by the cheers of a home crowd, has realised the names in that front group could be the names of a world champion today. He's going across the gap. This is the big chase down. Armstrong is up here. 112 has come on the back is Claudio Chiappucci. And Miguel Indurain is here, Gerard Rouet, and the rider setting the pace, Frans Maassen. Well, this is a perfect piece of timing by some of the great names in the sport now. Suddenly the World Championship has shaken out the names that we know so often. Except one, Lance Armstrong of the United States. First-year professional rider. He tickled the pro sport last year with some great results after what he saw as a rather bad 14th place in the Barcelona Olympic Games. There he is going down the outside, just checking out, seeing if this is a good move or not. But what a mature rider he is, 21 years of age. And looking good. Lance Armstrong, the Motorola team during the Tour de France, announced a further year's involvement in the sport, and that brought a great sigh of relief, I think, amongst the men of Motorola. They knew where they were going for the next season, and at a time when the economic recession is setting off a lot of teams and a lot of riders, good riders, aren't having contracts renewed, Armstrong able to concentrate on what would be an unbelievable world title today. But he's got some competition. Miguel Indurain being spurred on by the thought of the big 3 wins this year. The world's number one. No sign in this race at all of Tony Rominger. Gerard Rouet, always the man who nearly makes it. Tremendously talented bike rider, but never gets the big names. There's the teams on the lead: Indurain, Rouet, Chiappucci, Maassen and Armstrong. What a break. It's not over yet, though. If only our camera could pan back, because the chase down is still there. They're still coming, but this is a powerful group. Over the top of the climb, then we start the descent. Armstrong leading from Frans Maassen. Indurain has made the move this year. At Benidorm, he came so close to victory, but he had to be pushed back into 6th place in the sprint. He'll remember that now. But the rider who beat him then, Gianni Bugno, out of the world title today. Still a lot of Dutch riders there. They will now defend handsomely for Frans Maassen, because they'll share in the spoils. Very often, if the rider from Holland wins a world title, he gives away all of the win money, and also has to pay even to the riders for their services as well, because they see him as earning his future fortune as a world champion next season. So it often costs a rider from Holland quite a lot of money to win the world title. But I don't think Frans Maassen would worry too much about that right now. There he is, tacked at the back of the group. 5 very, very talented men, and Miguel Indurain, perhaps the most talented of them all. Eddy Merckx said it during the Tour de France. He felt that Miguel could win at least 3 more Tours de France. I'm not so sure I'd like to see him do that, but if he could, he'd be the first man winning 6 Tours and taking the record away from Merckx, Hinault and the late Jacques Anquetil. Little gaps beginning to open. Not a working unit we might expect to see, or are they a little bit frightened now, because this is the treacherous part of the circuit where they've been going down throughout the day. Armstrong himself, by the way, has fallen, and I believe on 2 occasions, off our cameras. But there seems to be nothing with the way he's riding right now. Well, there's the tram going up, the tram that could so easily have created a very hazardous situation when Raul Alcala went over those barriers earlier on in this race. He's out of the race now. There's the chase. It's not out of it by any means, is it? We're not on the last lap here. There's still the descent, the journey round the harbour, and then we're out on the final circuit. Still a long way to go, and a little bit too early to count one's chickens, I think. And there's the rider at the front who would rather be in the lead, Dag Otto Lauritsen, a rider who will continue to chase to the bitter end. down through dangerous corner, shall we call it. Indurain bringing them through, braking. A little bit of a wobble on his machine there. Armstrong sitting right back on the saddle, getting a nice balance on the machine. Indurain's been down some of the worst passes in the world, but I bet he's never felt as nervous as he feels right now. Masson gently comes down too, and look at the gaps that form between the wheels. The Fearless and the Free. Again, Indurain is leading. Armstrong is second. Masson, Rouvy and Chiappucci. That's the order, and if anything you know, there's an escape group and it's coming in, it's closing in, and Dag Otto Lauritsen is the rider who's closing it down. 10 seconds is nothing on this circuit anymore. Not when Dag Otto, the former Oslo policeman, who once had his legs broken in a parachute jump and told he would never walk again, never mind ride a bike at this level again. Now in with a chance of being a world champion on home ground. Forget it, he's going to go. Perhaps these riders now are out of it. Sean Kelly sitting at the back. Stephen Roach, by the way, has retired. He's felt, he's had his moment and has come out. Still very much a serious chase down here. Just caught a glimpse there of another Danish rider sitting near the back. It was Johnny Welts, but now there's still confusion at the front. He's not working well. In fact, our cameras missed it there, but something seemed to have happened between Lance Armstrong and Claudio Chiappucci. They put it right, and they've come back up to the leaders. There's Rouvy, the workhorse. Masson always willing to go. Now, if it comes down to the sprint, Indurain himself can pack a punch, you know, when he wants to. Very rarely ever uses his sprint because he never needs to in a long-distance stage race. He rides them off in the time trial. But if it comes to a sprint, I think he'll deliver a good one. But the man he would have to take on in this group, I think, would be probably Frans Masson. Rouvy chosen the wheel of Indurain. Indurain chosen the wheel of the young American rookie, Lance Armstrong. What a season that man has had. The $1 million Big Three in June in the United States, a stage win in the Tour de France that followed that. Now he's in the breakaway, which could well be the decisive move in the world title. At worst, he'll be fifth. But that little group is coming across, and we know that Dag Otto Lauritsen is into that group as well. And driving it very, very hard indeed there, Dag Otto. He keeps looking up. Bjorn Ries has got himself back into that breakaway as well. So this is a tremendous chase down. We're heading up towards the end of the penultimate lap and out into the final lap. This is the dicey part of the course as well. The surface of the road has been put down again here. It's in the Dockland area. And just before the championships. There's Armstrong. Not overdoing it. What a strong, powerful rider he looks on the bike. Former triathlete. Comes from Texas. And in the absence of the great Greg LeMond, not here, of course, having retired for the year, but promising everybody he will come back to Europe next year and have one great final season before he'll probably ride a little bit in the United States, and then retirement will follow. But LeMond not in the world title. And could it be that we're watching the man who will replace him in the years ahead? Lance Armstrong now set himself up that the merging of the two groups, and this is now a powerful group. And says Bjorn Ries has come up, so too has Dag Otto Lauritsen. The German rider is Olaf Ludwig on the right. Now the big sprinters arrive. Now they'll have to start thinking again there. 141 is Andre Schmiel going through. He's a rider too who can pack a good sprint finish. And Dag Otto's gone. Dag Otto has gone with a long way to go. He really is taking this race home to Norway today, and he's ridden brilliantly. He's gone in the feed too. He hasn't waited for the bell. Maybe he feels it's psychologically the time to test these riders just as the two groups has merged. Dag Otto did a lot of chasing, not just with his legs, but with his mouth as well. Here he chased those riders up to the group, and now he's attacked. Well, I'm not sure whether he's misjudged it here, but he's running on some adrenaline, that's for sure. No reaction at all. Everybody looking at everybody else. Well, that's how you win stages of the Tour de France too, and Dag Otto will remember his win. He's no mountain climber, yet he's won a stage at Les Ardennes in the Pyrenees. And Masson has felt it's the time to go as well. Masson is going across the Dagotto. That will cause the others to react. They know the strength of Franz. Former winner of the Amstel Gold Race, former champion of the Netherlands. And surely now when they see Dagotto in the lead here, the adrenaline will do it all for him. He's going to get that cold, tingly feeling coursing through his body now as he races through the start-finishing line to the bell. 1 lap to go in his home city of Oslo. And Dagotto Larsson in the lead in the World Championship with Frans Masson. Masson doesn't seem convinced he should go with this one. He keeps looking over to see if anybody's coming. There's the bell. 1 lap to go at the end of the most dreary world title races, where it has been a battle of the riders who could stay upright, as well as the strongest men in the world. And there is the King of Norway. And I bet he never thought on his 25th wedding anniversary he would see a rider from Oslo in the lead in the World Championships. The first time they've been here, and 100 years since the first world title was held in the United States. And the United States not out of this one either. They still have a man in the group. It looks as though, in fact, that man in the group is doing the work right now, Lance Armstrong, because there are 3 riders got together at the front, and I think Olaf Ludwig is the man who's got across. It is indeed Ludwig. He won the big bunch sprint in the Seoul Olympic Games 5 years ago, in 1988, and then turned professional with the coming together of the Germanys. But of course he turned professional so late in life and done so much with his few short years as a pro. Green jersey in the Tour de France, classic winner. Now can he be world champion? Dagotto will not be happy with these 2 riders. He will finish 3rd if he takes them to the line. He knows that. But for the moment, he's willing to use their strength to try and open a gap. Doing all of the work himself, and the crowd know it. He wants more work off Masson. Masson not willing to come through. Masson unsure about this move. He still wants Masson to come through. Now Franz goes through. Word perfect, desperate for a big win. They've hardly had anything since the win by Raoul Alcala in the Tour du Pont. And although Ludwig is up here, he doesn't seem to be at all happy either. He's suffering. He can't answer to the wheel there of Frans Masson. He couldn't follow it through. He won't like the climbs that are still to come, because Ludwig is not a good climber anyway. And because of the speed they're going, I think he'll find it a bit of a struggle. He might not make the top of the climb with this group. Well, there they are, the big 3, bronze, silver, gold. Which order do you want? That's the way it is at the moment. And Dagotto Larsson so close to the World Championship in Utsunomiya in Japan in 1990, when he was brought down in that pile-up by Dirk de Wolf, and he stood up and punched de Wolf in the face, but he never got back into the action. De Wolf went on to finish 2nd, and Dagotto Larsson felt that his World Championship, which he felt was his, had gone forever. Now he's back in Oslo. Ridden absolutely brilliantly these last 5 laps. He's watched every move. He's created most of them himself. And the 8 men behind. And you can never, ever count out Claudio Chiappucci. Look at this. And if any man's going to spoil the party, it'll be him. He's ruined it for many top bike riders throughout the world over the last few years, and has become perhaps the big favourite of the crowds around the world because of the way he races. He doesn't believe in tactics. He makes his own up. And now he's trying to close down, because it's Chiappucci doing the chasing. These 3 men continue. Masson and Larsson doing the work. Ludwig seemingly not in the mood to help them out. And he is the man who would certainly win the sprint. Surprisingly, though, the other 2 feeling the lead is too tenuous to start an argument with Olaf Ludwig. And for the moment, at least, they seem to be content to let him sit there. But now they've manoeuvred him. Larsson has manoeuvred Ludwig in front of him. But Ludwig in no hurry, happy with the wheel of Frans Masson. And the rain continues even on this final lap to return to this course. And the risk of falling still very, very real. And this is the man who's trying to go now, trying to leave that leading group. And Dagotto has gone on the climb. Now Massa, for some reason, has allowed Dagotto to go. It may be he was wanting Olaf to take up the chase. Olaf refused, and the gap has opened, and Dagotto has gone, and the others are being picked up. The others are being picked up. Now, it could be, in fact, that Masson feels that the big names in this back group won't allow Dagotto to escape. And he's feeling that it might make better sense to drop back, because he has the sprint that could win this championship, but they're still going to have to take on Dagotto, who is so inspired today. Dagotto Lauritsen, clear. Being pulled now like a magnet towards the finishing line of his home country. His actual house is something like 500 kilometres away from Oslo these days, but he was a policeman here. And Lance Armstrong has somehow got up, because in fact Ludwig is here and dropped, and Armstrong has sprinted the gap closed. Lance Armstrong has joined now Frans Masson. Now will Masson pick up the tempo or go back? There's Bjorn Ries staying there in the pack. He must have some mixed feelings, because he knows a Scandinavian, if not the same country, is now out in front. He may not want to chase down Dagotto. They know each other well. Masson has decided with Armstrong it's worth a chase back. Over the top at Rayon. Armstrong sitting handsomely there on the wheel of Frans Masson. Let's have a look who's leading the chase. Who else would it be? Claudio Chiappucci looking for somebody else to take up the attack, and it's coming too. Gerard Rouet is going. And that, in fact, has pushed Chiappucci to the back, and this is the chase group that's coming up now. The Italians have got themselves a few riders up in this league group. Marco Giovanetti is there as well, and so too, I think, is Fondriest. Three men, though, are better than one, I think. The way this race is going, quite clear the fact that nobody is getting away. All of the riders in this league group are now fully committed. Armstrong still in the thick of this action, the young American who has matured so quickly and arrived at the very, very pinnacle of professional racing in less than a year. There he is, flying the colours of Motorola, the United States champion, $1 million winner this year in the United States at the same time, and a stage winner in his first Tour de France. You can't really ever dream of things like that happening. And we don't even consider the fact that he might soon be a world champion. Frans Masson so close to a world title for Holland now. And Dagotto Lauritsen knows that the winner has an audience with the king. In Lauritsen's case, his king. The gap is still small. Our motorbike camera can't swing round and show us, but believe me, it is not very big. I have to say that we should take our hats off today. This is Rouet chasing across the gap. We should take our hats off today to the motorbike riders, because in these conditions they've taken the same risks as the riders on the pedal bikes and done a great job. And this, in fact, is Armstrong, who's leading the chase down and taking all the risks now. He's got the feeling, surely, that this could be a good one. There's a rider absolutely flying across the gap. We haven't got a name on just at the moment, but this is Armstrong leading through. Now it's the short ascent up the Ekberg. I think it's Rouet. We saw him earlier from the helicopter, who's still out there, who's gone across to give us four leaders out in front. This is the remnants of the breakaway. Surely now the world champion is from this group, all the four in front, and from nowhere else. And there's Rouet. He's contacted the wheel of Masson and Dagotto Lauritsen, but they should start worrying now about the world champion-elect, because Lance Armstrong's going. Armstrong has taken a lot of risk on the way down, and that showed a lot of skill. And now he's trying to go on the way up. A last climb of the Ekberg, and Armstrong is going for it. And there's an attack through. Rouet is gone, but Masson has got his wheel. I just wonder how much now Dagotto's got left. He's made his moves. He's tried so hard in this race. He's been swept up yet again by Masson principally and Armstrong. Rouet's come on now. But the one man notably missing from the front is Miguel Indurain, who found himself outmanoeuvred by the attack by Dagotto. And Dagotto is in trouble here. Masson is going, and Dagotto has gone. Rouet, so close to doing great rides in his career. One of the finest real professionals in France, Gerard Rouet, and now he's knocking on the door of a good medal here. But what about this young American? He's shown no fear throughout his very short pro career of any of the big names in professional cycling. And now he's got himself a lead at the top of the Ekberg. Well, what a surprise this would be, but you could never in any way say it was a lucky win. Armstrong's ridden his way to the front of this race. He's had every top rider around him, and he's dispatched them all so far. Rouvy, Masson, Dagotto, and in fact this is Indurain who's now leading the chase, and look at his face. You don't often see Miguel Indurain look like that. Schmil goes through as well, Bjorn Ries, and gritting his teeth at the back, the former Seoul Olympian, there is Olaf Ludwig. Well, this is a turn-up for the book. 2 times on the floor in this race. Lance Armstrong wasn't really noticed in this world title till towards these last couple of laps. And now he's made his bid. Still in the rain, over the Ekberg. This would be an immense surprise to everybody if Armstrong was to pull off the world title. And he's left some great men here now just scrabbling for wheels and trying to grip a wheel. That's all they want. Johan Museo is here as well if it comes to a sprint finish, sitting there near the back. Winner this year of the Tour of Flanders when he was the champion of Belgium. Well, the new champion of Belgium is out today with a broken collarbone in what has been a series of falls on every circuit of this greasy 11.5 miles of Oslo. Armstrong cleared. It's no time now to look over your shoulder, Lance. Somebody once told me the race is right here and the World Championship could now be his for the taking. Well, the hat has gone in the pocket. It's come down to very serious stuff now by the 21-year-old. He won't be 22 till the end of this year. I should imagine now that Jim Okowitz from Motorola is sitting on the edge of his seat. He'll be one of the youngest ever riders to win a world championship at professional level, and the gap is there for him now. It is there for Lance Armstrong, and surely that's big enough. Surely that's big enough. They've taken too long to organise the chase back, and it's going to tell now. Chiappucci wants help, but they're not organised at all. That's Andre Schmil who's gone through. Armstrong now can concentrate. The former triathlete, unhappy when he finished 14th in the Olympic Games in Barcelona. He turned professional. He had success almost immediately. And this year has come out and had an absolutely unbelievable season. The champion of the United States, he won that title in the Core States race in Philadelphia, which also was the end of a trifecta where he picked up 3 straight wins and qualified for $1 million as the winner of all 3 events. And then he took his Stars and Stripes national champions jersey to the Tour de France before pulling out of that race, which was planned. He took a stage there as well. Second in the Tour DuPont. If he's going to win a big-time stage race, he'll have to work a little bit on his time trialling, but he's not going to be worried about that right now. He's thinking of staying upright and taking out the first ever World Championship attempt for him. And he will certainly be remembered. The first time in Norway and the celebrations of 100 years of the world titles. Not the road race, by the way, because we only go back to the mid-20s for the first road race in the professionals. Still trying to pull together, but nobody in that group now has any way they can work with each other, and the gap is 18 seconds. They're trying, just snatching at straws here, using individual strength, and that's just about all Lance Armstrong's got left now. But what strength this man has, and what a star of the future really is, even if he gets swept up now. He's made his move, he's made his mark. He's riding an Eddie Merckx bicycle, who was without doubt the finest rider the world has ever seen, who was a world champion both as amateur and professional. And Lance is doing that frame proud right now. He's locked in, this big powerful man from Austin in Texas. And now he's stopped worrying where the rest are. He's got his rhythm and he's taking his chance. He's got all the skills one requires to be a top professional rider. He's not been afraid of what surely has been the most dangerous course he's ridden on this year. He hasn't dodged either all the falls. He's been involved in one or two himself, but now he's got the break. He did it so well. I don't really know why Franz Masson got away, let him go, because he was right there. He let him move away. It was almost as if he wanted some of the stronger men he knew, like Indurain, to join him. Perhaps he never felt that Indurain would allow a breakaway to go like this. But perhaps Indurain could do nothing about it. We all saw his face when he came up the last climb. It was hurting him. 20 seconds. 2 more seconds have been nudged out now. And still, they're not really organised in the chase back. They're looking at each other to take the chase. They're doing it individually, not as a group. And the man we could expect to win the sprint, Olaf Ludwig, is here. Even if it has hurt him, he stayed in the action. It's all easier going for him now. He should recover on the way down. But there's no way they're going to bridge the 20 seconds riding like this. There's not enough drive in this group. I think it's Fondriest, the Italian, who's got to the head of that chase. Chiappucci's taking a back seat now to the better finisher, perhaps Fondriest, who will expect with confidence to go on to win the World Cup this year. But I don't think he's going to win the world title. I think we're looking at him. Lance Armstrong is going to take out this World Championship in magnificent style. And nobody will ever say he was a fortunate winner. Fortunate to stay upright, perhaps. But he's ridden this race with tremendous strength. All the dangers are over now. Once he's round this curly bit onto the top road, it's a straight ride into the finish, and Armstrong can go with confidence towards the line. The gap...
Yeah, as you'll notice, I've got no intention of doing this Charlotte segment full effort for the entire race. Still got 2.5k to go, or just under, for all the Charlotte segments. So, as I said, today's ride is meant to be, quite easy. I did start this segment with a bit of effort, but as soon as I passed, it seemed kind of pointless to continue that effort, and I've just slowed down to reduce my heart rate again, which is the plan of today's ride anyway. So I'm just going to take a quick look at the map again. See where we are.
Almost on the eve of retirement for Greg LeMond, found his
replacement, my viewpoint again.
And that is incredible. Greg LeMond was a man for the World Championships. We saw his silver medal, and we've seen his gold medals. At world titles, he all began life as a junior world champion. He went on to win the Tour de France 3 times. And Greg
I've got
hasn't
267 metres left to climb, which you can see at the bottom of the screen where my blue marker is. So 267 metres left to climb, and 5.4
for Armstrong, and I think Motorola are going to be rather pleased that they've already signed him for the team next year, because his asking price now
if I change my
will be a little bit heavy, I think. Andre Schmidt, 141, been dodging in the range falls here, just staying near the front of affairs, almost unnoticed throughout this breakaway.
Okay, I don't like that because he can't see me at all, so to go back.
Armstrong, the city of Oslo in Norway is awaiting him, and the World Championship was going to be his.
Near.
The riders have never organised this chase at all. They've gone in little spurts, but they've been chased down and somebody else has gone. And at the moment, I think it's Fondriest nearest the camera. There is Chiappucci. They've got another little group trying to go, and Chiappucci is the rider who's refusing to take up the chase. Well, this will be Giovanetti, the only other Italian in this breakaway. It's all not worked out for the Italians, has it? They've monitored everything, and now they've allowed a man they never really suspected could lift the world title, and he's outwitted them all. Armstrong has gone, and he's left 3 good Italians in this group: Giovanetti, Chiappucci, Fondriest. And there he is, in the worst conditions you could imagine here. And if only you'd have seen yesterday, it was warm, sunny and brilliant. And Germany found themselves a world champion in Jan Ullrich at 19 years of age. He was the youngest since Eddy Merckx, and now we're seeing possibly the youngest ever world champion here as a professional in Lance Armstrong. The days of the young ones in this World Championships in Norway. And Masson, who surely is the man who's made the big mistake today, he was there, and he allowed the move to happen around him. In a sprint finish, I think Franz would have beaten Lance Armstrong. But it doesn't matter now. Armstrong is winning in the style of the man on whose bike he rides, Eddy Merckx. A lone victory makes a great champion, and one to be remembered. Leave it to nothing. To ride home solo now is a matter of a mile away. And Kierpucci never gives up, does he? He's got clear, and Kierpucci now chasing alone. And he's got a good gap as well. He's got a very good gap. So Giovanetti there has given way to Kierpucci. The last time through the pits, and if he's any helpers here, they'll cheer him. And the way that they can go to the finishing line, they can just about run through to the home straight to see Armstrong finish. He has to go around the city of Oslo now. But what a great feeling it must be for Lance Armstrong to race through the pits there now. Just about 2 kilometres, just over a mile to the finish, and the regrouping here. Well, with the exception of Kierpucci, who's heading into the pits with that lead, and there's a charge down the far side of the road. And that'll be the counter-attack which might well finish off Claudio. Indurain sitting at the back. And so too Bjarne Riis. I think his legs are played out. Hardly surprising, really. He's ridden a great race. But it just didn't work out for him. 2 laps to go. It looked as though he was the world champion. Now we're looking at a man who surely will take it. The only thing that would stop him now would be a mechanical defect or a flat, and nobody would wish that on Lance Armstrong. This has been a brilliant championships for him. He'll sit back at the end of the year, and he's going to ask himself, what more can I do? I've done it all in one season. Stage in the Tour de France, the second in the Tour du Pont, the World Championship. To crown it all, his $1 million in the height of the summer, his American title. And this in 12 short months of cycling. It's hardly a year ago since he finished 14th in Barcelona and actually contemplated giving up the sport. Now he's looking back and seeing nobody as he becomes champion of the world. Lance Armstrong, 21 years of age, is America's second only world ever road race champion. And he's going to make the most of this. It's still a long way to the finish. He's just making sure nobody's coming. But they're not Lance. He's going to win this. He's giving away all his time games to salute the crowd. Over 6 hours in the saddle. And Lance Armstrong, and I bet his Motorola team can't believe it. With the 7-11, they came and they tried to conquer. As Motorola, they've surely done that. They had a great Tour de France this year, Motorola, with Alvaro Mejia and, of course, with Andy Hampsten. And now with Lance Armstrong, they've lifted the World Championship. He shakes his head like he's come out of a shower, and that's just about what he's done. Look at this sprint now for second place. Museo taking the lead. Indurain, I told you he could finish. Indurain is annoyed and going to win the sprint for second place. Miguel Indurain takes a clear second and the silver medal. And coming up in third place, a very tight finish there from Museo, with Olaf Ludwig will take it right on the line and take the bronze medal. And Claudio Kierpucci there trails in at the back. John Hendershot, the first to congratulate the new champion of the world, Lance Armstrong. Well, Hendershot has seen it all. The congratulations are well due indeed. And I think Hendershot there biting his lip. It's quivering a little bit, and I'm not surprised. As the sprints go on now, this is Andreas Kapus, who's finishing in 13th place here, just clipping Adrie van der Poel, and the big field coming in, fighting out for 15th place. Led home there, by the way, by Laurent Jalabert, the Frenchman who was a medalist last year in the World Championships. Well, can you believe that? The stars and stripes of the United States flying at the World Championships, and I think it's fair to say nobody really expected that. But from this young man, with the confidence he has exuded this year...
You can believe it, what you've done? I can't believe it. On the last straight, I looked at my computer and said, maybe there's still one lap to go, but...
Well, Lance Armstrong there being congratulated in fine style by Jim Okovits, and now the long walk with his proud mother Linda. And this is a man who 1 year ago was an amateur cyclist with a very poor, in his words, Barcelona Olympic Games, now the champion of the world. And he's beaten the men that matter in world cycling, because the rider leading him out to the podium now is none other than Miguel Indurain. Second today, but of course a winner for the last 3 years of the Tour de France, the last 2 years of the Tour of Italy. And in third place, taking the bronze medal, Olaf Ludwig, the former East German. Well, bitterly cold even at this stage of the game. But I don't think Lance will worry too much about that now. UCI official Werner Gerner presenting Lance Armstrong with the rainbow jersey of world champion. He'll wear this with pride for the rest of this season and, of course, throughout next year. And the gold medal, well, I wonder if Lance really believed this would be his today. His mother always said it was a course for her son when she saw it, and she was right. The high spot on the podium for the United States and for 21-year-old Lance Armstrong from Texas, beating the greatest man of the moment in world cycling, Miguel Indurain. He raised a smile there, but I think Miguel very disappointed because the 21-year-old American has denied him the big 3 wins, all that really remains in what is a tremendous career for him. And for Olaf Ludwig, a bronze medal now to match the gold medal of the Seoul Olympic Games in Barcelona when he rode for East Germany. So the big 3 riders in the World Championship, which will be remembered as one of the most difficult because of the course conditions, finding a winner from the United States. I'm Phil Liggett, till next season, saying goodbye. With no teammates in the race, checks out the situation ahead from the American team manager. And a little free advice too from the same source for Dag Otto Lauritsen, who confirms he thinks they will be caught soon. The great danger to the pack is the fact that some nations have more than 1 rider in the lead, and the Spanish have 4. Greg LeMond is asking here if Spaniard Marina Lajareta is in the front group. And it must be a relief when he's told by American coach Mike Neal, no, it's the less dangerous Eduardo Chozas. It's impossible for top riders to monitor every attack. They would simply tire themselves out. So LeMond must estimate the danger of the front group. He knows the manager in the car has access to a radio. The manager will know every position of every rider on the course. The following cars are not just along for the best view of the race. Inside is a nerve centre. The mechanics are ready to service the machines, while the coaches play a major role in planning the race strategy. It's time to show an interest now, rather than concern at this stage. There's still a long way to go. Peter de Klerk fuels the lead group with the energy. They want to stay clear of the field, and this group knows that a lead of at least 7 minutes would give them a chance of staying clear. It would also allow for the inevitable slowdown in the final 2 hours, and this race is certain to become one of survival. The gap is opening. The young American warriors of Greg LeMond race to limit the gain to the escape. These Americans have no thought of reaching the finishing line today, just keeping LeMond in with a chance of winning the world title. Their pace keeps the race in a long, thin line beneath the hot sun, now approaching 90 degrees. Steve Bauer, as a loner, has to employ his strategy based on other teams. He waits. So too the top Italians, Chiappucci nears the camera, and Bugno, because they have 3 riders in the front group. So the Americans, led by David Farmer, whose girlfriend, Ruthie Matthews, won silver in the women's road race, are left to keep the pace high and the pressure off LeMond. With 5 hours to race, Le Mans is less concerned for the moment by the breakaway's immediate progress. There are 3 Belgian riders in this lead group, all coached by Eddy Merckx in this World Championship. None are big-time winners. But along with France, Italy and Spain, these are the nations causing some concern in this front group because of their strength in number. David Farmer continues to play the part of a faithful team rider to Le Mans. But for how long? As this is Farmer's first ever race outside of the United States. What a way to begin. Inexperienced and young they may be, but despite the fact these riders have never raced alongside Le Mans on a team, they respect him enough to help as best they can. Greg LeMond appears fresh and untroubled by the pace so far, which is just below 24 miles an hour. His experience of 2 world titles and 2 silver medals will tell him that there's always a breakaway such as this, and there's no cause for alarm yet.
And it seems like this question comes up in every race he's in, but here it is again. When will 3-time Tour de France champion Greg LeMond make his move? The numbers tell us we're at the halfway point in the World Championship road race. Stay with us. We're back at the World Professional Road Cycling Championships in Japan, where instead of ballpark franks and cold beer, they're selling stadium sushi. And when a fan tries to trade up for a better meal, he gets the universal concession stand rejection. Forget it, pal. There are no substitutions, and get out of here with that expired coupon. Eating's on everybody's minds, particularly the racers. Greg LeMond has his own personal trainer, Otto Jacome, poised at roadside, ready to hand up food and drinks. Now, in the course of this 7-hour event, LeMond and every other competitor will pick up at least 2 cloth bags filled with fruit, soft sandwiches filled with meat, cheese, or jam, pastries, quick-acting energy bars, and always plastic bottles filled with water, energy drinks, or late in the race, caffeinated soda. If a racer misses a bag 1 lap, a trainer will be ready to pass it on in the next. Slowing to pick up a feed bag costs you time, but at this pace, no racer can afford to skip these meals on wheels.
Et voici le passage du coteau principal, Francis Mainfield.
Approaching the midpoint of the ordeal, the 20-man group is still well ahead. The pros have eaten quickly and are prepared to return to business. No one is better equipped for the task ahead than Greg LeMond. He is thin, healthy, near the peak of his career, and despite appearances, dead serious about the race. He's always ridden his best in the World Championship.
In American cycling, at least when I grew up in cycling, it was the one race you got to race internationally. I had the Junior World Championships when I was 17 years old, and that was the one race I got to race against the East Germans, the Russians, all the Eastern Bloc countries, and it had the feeling of the Olympics.
In 1983, LeMond was just a 22-year-old third-year pro with promise, until he soloed away from the best in Altenrhein, Switzerland, to become the first American man to win the world road title. For LeMond, that was a giant step towards superstardom, and an early sign that the one-day road championship worked well for him.
The race, it always suits me because it's on a circuit. It's hard. Depends. That's one thing. That's why I say world championships are very inconsistent. It all depends on the course each year, and there's no guide or standard that they do have a minimum difficulty course that you have to have, but some courses are easier than others. So if it's too easy, it becomes much more of a lottery where a lot more riders are able to win.
If the World Road Championship is a lottery, LeMond has bought almost all the tickets. Last year on a rain-soaked course in Chambéry, France, he won again, outwitting his great French rival Laurent Fignon, then beating the best of the rest in the final sprint. This win was different. Now the father of 3 children, the star who'd come back from a nearly fatal hunting accident to win a second Tour de France, LeMond had confounded all predictions and assured his place among the sport's legends. In the wake of last season's stunning successes, Lamont discovered a problem. He couldn't hide from the press, even during the race. Always accommodating, he spent more time talking, less time training. Overweight and ill, he suffered terribly during the first few months of this season. Finally, his form and morale were so bad that he decided to leave his European team and return to the U.S. to regroup.
I went training. I made it 1 kilometer from my house that Monday or that Tuesday before the Trump race. Turned back, cried. I went back, cried with my wife. Said I can't start the tour. I can't race. There's something wrong. Can't advance, can't do anything. And I talked with my coach, Roger Leger, and he just convinced me. He said, it doesn't matter how you do it. It doesn't matter. Our objective is the Tour de France. All these races, if you're 30 minutes behind every day, the team will wait for you. The team will support you. It doesn't matter. You just need to come to the race and get in that structured atmosphere.
Struggling to escape the broom wagon, America's champion in America's biggest race, the Tour de Trump, was proving an embarrassment. But his teammates kept their word by staying alongside in support.
I think that third day in the Tour of Trump, Charlottesville to Winchester was a day I contemplated on abandoning the race and going home because I felt like I wasn't physically capable of finishing the Tour de Trump. And as the race went on and progressed, I started feeling better and better each day. And already when I finished that race and I took a little recuperation period, training and racing is the way to make improvement is stress, recuperation, come to a higher level, stressing it, recuperating, going to another level. That's essentially what I did, and I got done with the Trump race. I killed myself to finish it, but already with the 2 or 3 day rest period, I was already at another level.
By the beginning of July, he'd battled back to top form. He rode a masterful Tour de France, seizing the lead for keeps on the next to last day.
They feel that when you're world champion that you maintain that same condition and form throughout the year. And for me, it's impossible to maintain a high level of conditioning 12 months of the year. And each race I went into, they said, well, you're a world champion. You should perform like a world champion. Well, I performed like a world champion at the Tour de France. I didn't do it at all the races. And I'm not a robot, and it's impossible for me to always be at the top.
In every race he enters, Lamont is the marked man. Everyone follows him. Never again will he win by surprise.
There are many riders, great riders like Sean Kelly, who've never won the world championship. So I was pretty shocked to win it last year. And if I could win it a third time, I'd be even more shocked. So.
So the marked man today, marked in red, white, and blue. Greg LeMond, the man everybody respects and no one will ever again count out. His remarkable comeback from last year's dismal beginnings has served notice to the best of the rest of the bike racers in the world. LeMond is dangerous. Now, less than 80 miles left in the World Championships. Stay with us. We'll be back after this word from your local stations. Welcome back to the World Championships. John Tesh along with Phil Liggett. And you're looking at the breakaway group of about 20 riders who at this point have a 4-minute and 50-second lead over the rest of the pack. And there is more of a sense of urgency now. As we continue this race, we want to remind you that the World Championships is not just this road race. It's a 2-week-long competition featuring 20 events, and some of them may well be like nothing you've ever seen before. This is sparkling Maebashi Stadium, also called the Green Dome, where 15 World Championship events were contested on a banked 333-meter plywood oval. With its smooth surface and steep 42-degree bankings, this new velodrome may be the fastest in the world. One of the most appealing events is the Professional Kirin, a race that was added to the World Championship program in 1980 at the suggestion of the Japanese. It's a 5-lap, 45-mile-an-hour roller derby. All racers are obligated to remain behind a pacing motorcycle until 1.5 laps remain. They fight for position behind that cycle, and there's an advantage to being near the front of the pack. The Kirin is about speed. With more on this race, here's Phil Liggett, who calls these races in Europe.
So 9 riders into the final. The first 3 home take gold, silver and bronze. The rider in blue there, the defending world champion, Claudio Golinelli. The art here is not to become too nervous. You're not allowed to pass the pacing motorcycle. but you can certainly jostle for position. Golinelli moves up on the outside. He has a good position at the moment. He's on the outside shoulder of Michael Hubner, the man he probably fears most in this sprint. And Hubner bumping him up the track there. And Golinelli immediately falling to the back of the line. Urs Fröhler, the rider in red, holds the best position at the moment. He can see the line. When the motorbike peels off, he'll have first shot at gold. The motorcycle dictates the pace, and the riders going comparatively slowly. They must battle for position rather than use their strength yet. They're waiting for the moment the motorcycle peels off the track. That comes 1.5 laps from the finish, and then they go as quick as they can to take the medals. It's the Japanese rider, Tawara. He's been forced to the back, and he's trying to come again now on the outside. He's anxious now. He needs to be up near the front before that motorbike peels off. Coming round the lap this time. There's 1 lap to go to when the motorbike will leave them. At that point, Fröhler now trying to hold his position in that red jersey. Stephen Pate of Australia has found his way out from behind the bike, and he's actually trying to force Fröhler up the track. Now over the bike as it peels off. Pate goes first. Fröhler tries to take his wheel. Patrick de Rocca, the former bronze medalist from France, is out of it now, and there's a clash of pedals there. They go for gold. Pate looks over his shoulder. Michel Barton close on his wheel. 1 lap to go now. Pate of Australia, the former sprint champion of the world, goes clear. Michel Barton of Belgium tries to come up. No holds barred now. He tried it, is flat out. Hubner is in third place. Sees the door on the inside open by Pate. Takes it well. Gets inside that red line. It's gone down at De Rocca. And on the line, I think Pate has got it. But I'm sure, too, there'll be an objection by Michael Hubner of East Germany. And let's have a look again at that sprint in replay. This is Pate of Australia. He was below the red line, but he went above it to elbow Michel Barton out the way. He left the door open, and the red line is the sprinter's line. In the last 200 metres, the man inside it first has the right of way. That right of way is Michael Hubner on the inside now, and Pate, clearly annoyed about that, fights all the way back, but goes himself inside the red line, and in fact, he pushes Hubner here, watch this, onto the blue ribbon and off the track. At the back, you can see that Patrick de Rocca, in fact, hit the back of Pate's wheel as well. And that could be another reason that could get Pate disqualified. Well, there are the referees of the World Cycling Championship. They're consulting, and here's the decision. And he has been disqualified. The winner is Michael Hubner. Another slice of history at these World Championships. And there is a very disappointed and very annoyed Stephen Pate of Australia.
What makes you say he's annoyed, Phil? Michael Hubner celebrating there the results of the Kieran race after that disqualification. Now, here is a look at the final of the professional match sprints, where defending champion Claudio Golinelli in blue meets the pumped-up East German Michael Hubner. This is a best-of-3 series, and it's as much a staring contest as it is a bike race. Hubner has won the first heat, so if he wins this, he will go on to win the gold medal.
So on the inside, Claudio Golinelli, the defending world champion, meeting for the first time in a sprint at any World Championships, Michael Hubner, the East German, now a professional rider. And people often ask the question, why do the riders go so slow when this is, in fact, the fastest event in the world, the sprint? But it's only over the last 200 metres when the riders will crack 40 miles an hour. The moment the riders will try now to play cat and mouse. The man who has lost the draw, which is Golinelli, has to lead for the first lap under the rules, and Hubner will want to keep him there as long as possible because the advantage of surprise will always lie with the second man. Times don't count in this race. There's no comparison at all with other events on the track. It is simply the first man back. It is the best of 3 matches so that all fairness can result from 3 meetings. And at the moment, Michael Hubner is 1 to the good. So in fact, he is 1 away from a gold medal. The crowd remain hushed in the stadium. Golinelli stalks on the lower part of the track, knowing now that any attack will come above his right shoulder. He will continually look around to find out the location of Hubner. And in track sprinting, you can actually ride off the track. Both riders now riding on what they call the Côte d'Azur, the blue ribbon. Hubner laying off his man. As they come round for 2 laps to go, you can see the size of these 2 riders because weight training and development plays a much bigger part in a track cyclist makeup than it does for a summer road racing cyclist who is a long-distance athlete. These riders are pure power men. Now, as we come round towards the end of the first lap, Golinelli then has the right to try and manoeuvre Hübner in front of him. He must lead for that first lap till he crosses the start-finish line. But now he's moving his man up the track. His objective, once he's over that start-finishing line, will be to try and bring his bicycle to a complete halt. He wants to manoeuvre Hübner in front of him, where he can see him. Now he's over the white line. Hübner will try with determined fashion not to come past Golinelli because the best surprise is from the back, and he's actually feigned a move there to try and cause Golinelli to continue to roll. Golinelli is now trying to stand on one of the most difficult parts of the track, entering the 42-degree banking. He's trying to log his bicycle up. He's failed completely. He's continued to roll on. Hübner has won that round, that psychological battle. He's kept his man in front from Italy, where he wants him, and they continue to roll around. So Hübner is known as one of the fastest sprinters in the world. He will have the utmost respect from Golinelli, the professional world champion defending his title. But over the years, Michael Hübner, who began in 1983 in Zurich with the bronze amateur world medal, he then graduated to silver in Italy in 85, then finally won the gold medal in Colorado Springs in 1986 as an amateur. This is his first chance to have a crack at a professional. And again, Golinelli tries to stop his bike dead on the track. Now, if your bike actually moves backwards, and the crowd are appreciating this, if your bike moves backwards, the gun will fire and the race will be completely restarted. You can only hold it still. And just look at Hübner behind him. Locked it perfectly in position. Remember, the object is that Golinelli wants Hübner in front, and he almost did it there. He almost stood long enough to force Hübner in front. And now Hübner bouncing his back wheel to try and lock it. This takes tremendous pressure on the legs. Well, the world record for standing still on a bicycle is actually over 3 hours, but not at competitive level. And just look at this, Hübner kicking back and forth to try and lock that wheel, but the pressure on those huge thigh muscles is quite tremendous, and he wants to save some for the sprint, which is not very far away. So, Hübner has decided to take the lead. Golinelli has won the round of the battle of the standstills. He's now got his man exactly where he's wanted him for the last 1.5 laps, and that's in front. He can see him now. So Hübner eases the muscles on that session of standing still and rides high on the banking. 42 degrees this banking. He rides as high as he can because it now means that Golinelli must make his attack underneath him. So he constantly watches over his left shoulder. Now he looks round to his right. They're dropping lower down the track as the bell rings for 1 lap to go. 333 metres to go. The clock will start over the last 200 metres. If Hübner wins this, the boy in grey, it will be a World Championship gold medal. If Golinelli wins and he makes the break first, it will be forced to a deciding ride. Golinelli now gives every bit of energy he's got down the back straight, but look at the speed of the East German. Michael Hübner comes onto Golinelli's shoulder as they come off into the home straight now. Golinelli winding it up for a big sprint finish and gets it. 65 kilometres an hour. That is 41 miles an hour over the last 200 metres. Let's take a look at it again in slow motion. The power of the East German, and this is the first time he's had a crack at winning a professional gold medal. And as he comes up to the finish, straightens the arm, throws the bicycle forward, and the gold medal is his.
And Phil, after that show of upper body strength by Hübner, I think Golinelli may be headed for the health club. Hübner gold, Golinelli silver, and Pates bronze. The second gold for Hübner in these championships. The East German on the medal stand today and perhaps started. And as the shadows grow longer, we are reminded that this is indeed the most grueling and prestigious events at the World Championships. 13 racers remain in the lead, survivors of the original 20-man group. They've been ahead for nearly 4 hours. Their reward for 100 miles of hard pedaling, an ever-shrinking lead that now stands at 2 minutes, and the hour of reckoning nears. Italians in the pack in light blue pick up the pace. On this humid 86-degree day, the breakaway men are hot and bothered. The spunk and precision that rocketed them forward earlier is now gone.
Thomas Wegmuller, one of the original 20 breakaways, has sensed the pack is closing in. The main field is reduced to 60 riders, but every important name is still here. The waiting game is reaching its climax, and soon they must go for the kill. Greg LeMond knows too that time is beginning to run out as he follows the wheel of Robert Miller. Miller's a British rider, but he races on LeMond's French team all year. Wegmuller, best known for his second-place finish in Paris-Roubaix in 1988, when a plastic bag jammed his gears in the race for first, is no pushover rider, and the race behind know this too. He is just 40 miles from the finish. The blue jerseys of Italy have 3 potential winners: Chiappucci, Bugno and Maurizio Fondriest, the 1988 world champion. They had 3 riders in front originally, but now they have only 1, so they lead the chase. At last, the field is alive, leaving LeMond hopeful that he will close up to give him the chance he's waiting for.
Like
no American friends around him now. The pace has killed them all off.
Time at the moment anyway. There's
towards the end of lap 14, snatching a food bag on the gentle climb to the start and finish line. His lead just 40 seconds ahead of the breakaway group. A sharp right-hand bend into the home straight for the field, and David Cassani crashes into the wall. The Italians have lost a valuable pacemaker.
trying to
The 12 survivors of the breakaway group enter laps